Today I'm going to show you how you can paint at home this gorgeous copper teapot with yellow-faced daisies. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
He's going to help me bring you this lesson. Now, you may not know this. You may know this. This is part of a 30-day painting program. You can do this just one and done and follow along with me. I'm going to explain every technique, every color mix, everything fully. So you can do it whether you're doing acrylic April or not. I highly recommend if you love daisies and you love metal, regardless if you're taking part of our 30-day painting challenge or you're just loving flowers today, that you take part, you're going to love this lesson. I feel like we came up with a lot of good ways to explain the process.
Yeah.
Every color, every tool, everything with the camera pointing at it so you can see it and paint along at home. To aid you with that, if you check the description down below, you go to my website, there's a free traceable. You don't have to do anything extra, you just download it if you don't feel like drawing, but I'm going to show you how to draw it. Also, there's a step-by-step written out mini book, which is amazing for beginners. It makes a huge amount of difference in your outcome and your result. That's free if you would like to download that and have that as another reference. There's even like little infographics that are step-by-steps. There's so much stuff to help you win. So all you've got to do is get your paint, get your brushes, and come back and meet me at Diesel right now. I'm going to show you how to paint this. So on our 8x8 surface today, I have the wish or intention for you is that you find your gift, the one that, you know, is most precious to your heart, and then you're able to share it with others. So you know where the color is on the palette. I have ultramarine blue, cad yellow medium, cad red medium, burnt sienna, Mars black, and titanium white. And for the first part of this painting, I will take a angle brush. This is a 3/4 inch angle brush, but you could use a bright or any big brush that you wanted. And I'm going to paint the background gray. I'm going to use ultramarine blue and Mars black to do that. And that'll give me kind of a Payne's gray. And it's a fairly dark gray that I am painting it. I need room to have a light source and a shadow. This cool gray also will make it very nice. Let me move my water cup over here for the kettle to just kind of pop and show against the background.
You know who's always bringing me gifts or giving me gifts?
Hmm.
My little dog, Twix.
What did Twix bring right now?
Oh, she leaves little gifts for me all over the house. I walk into a room and find a little gift that she leaves for me.
Are these little turdlet gifts?
Most of the time they are.
Is this a turdlet gift?
Little presents for me to find.
Is this a present?
She thinks so. It's for you.
How has this come up? I don't understand what we're talking
Because you
about.
just said about the gifts in the intro.
Oh!
The gift that keeps on giving is a puppy.
Yeah, she does.
You're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I didn't pay attention.
I thought you were trying to code to me that the dog had pooped under your desk. And then you just stepped in it. And we needed to figure out how to, like, I don't know, like, green screen it or pause or do something to help you.
Yep.
Oh, good times, good times.
So clearly, this is a highly edited and rehearsed show.
Just, yeah. Acrylic April. This is all the preparation we're capable of.
Paint your background.
We're just painting our background gray, and you can see it's just not one value of gray. We're just kind of making it interesting. Sometimes it's more blue, sometimes it's more black, sometimes it's lighter. You just kind of work it out as you go. I just want some gray on here. Also going to make it nice to draw in the teapot. I have saved this one from forever ago, this idea, because I really wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And so glad to be doing it. I even made everybody do like a mini metal quest, so when we came here, there would be a group of people who were prepared to paint metal. That's how long I planned things. I'm like, here we go. Kind of giving it that rustic finish.
Yeah.
All right, that's not bad. We painted a background. Look at it go. Let's rinse out our brush so the paint doesn't dry in it. I like to really press it against the bottom of the cup to pull the paint out of it. And I'm going to dry this with a hair dryer. When we come back, I'm going to show you how to draw the teapot in. But if you don't draw, of course, you can download the traceable and use it on that step. So I'm going to sketch in the teapot. I'm going to use a Dritz chalk tool. This is a Taylor's chalk tool, and I'm using chalk just so it erases off my canvas easily, but it also sticks to the acrylic. If you're going to do the traceable, you would want to do that process now. And if you don't know how to use the traceable, that's okay because I have a video for that. So that's how beginner like we are. We got the video for that. Your questions, we have the video for that. One of my tricks here, though, is I'm going to come up to the top of my surface. I'm going to leave about 3 fingers, and I'm going to make a little line in yellow. And then I'm going to come down here towards the bottom and hopefully get another straight line, I mean, in theory, in yellow. And what this is going to do is there are 2 structures on my teapot that aren't in curve. Obviously, it's the bottom because it has to be able to sit level. And there's the handle. And we don't see what attaches the handle to the teapot. There's so many daisies. But it's important to make sure that this and this have a level aspect. That's why I used a T-square. If you were wondering. You might not be. I'm going to come from the bottom and give this a nice little elegant round up. And then teapots generally, I need to bring it up more, I think. I need to have a place where the lid would go. So I've got that. That's where my teapot lid would go. That looks good. Now, sometimes we the bottom of a teapot will be sort of in shadow for us. So it's okay, right, where that's going to happen because you know that it may taper down even further beyond what our eye can see. I'm going to come out from this little belly here and make a little S. That's going to be the spout. Now I'm going to come here and make 2 little ends to my handle. And this is a wood-turned handle. How exciting for us, right?
With the wood makes it easier to pick it up because it's not as hot.
Because it's not as hot. And it gives us something nice to paint. And even though we have daisies, daisies, daisies just all around, and we don't see that, we just want to make sure that those structures kind of like work. I'm going to come here kind of outside my little S, go in, come up. Make it a nice little spout. I know that I've got a flower coming here, and that we have wonderful, lovely little flowers sort of going everywhere else, but we really kind of have to paint the handle and the teapot before we can add flowers. Even the ones that are kind of coming behind the handle, we need to know where that handle's going to be to do that. So let's continue on doing some fun stuff. We'll get some distant, out of focus little bokeh things here, and then we'll start adding in our teapot. We'll come back. Do that with me. I'm gonna be doing it with a little round hog. So I do want to put some distant little bokeh flowers that are not quite as focal as the front ones, and I'm going to kind of tuck them around our teapot handle before I crisply paint that in. I've got my number 10 round. This isn't a hog. You can just use a regular round or just the corner of your regular hog. Whatever works well for you to get soft effects. I'm going to bring a little of my white out, and I'm going to add just a smidge of my ultramarine blue to that. There. So it's kind of in shadow. This is going to be our shadow light color. And I'm going to make dry brush little petal lines that are happening here. See how we're doing? These are very out of focus, so we don't have to be too worried. These are just little petals and everything that's filled in back here. Take a little of my ultramarine and my cad yellow. kind of a gray green.
It's always so interesting all the colors that you use and make.
That you use and make. Well, and a lot of times people think, oh, well, you can't make a nice green with ultramarine and cad yellow. In this painting, this is going to be the bright green.
I'm lucky to make green at all.
So I'm just, putting little stems and bits of filler here. These are the little things that are behind our focus flowers that really let them pop and show. Now I'm going to rinse this out because we need some dark value here too. I'm going to take a little of my cad yellow over to my Mars black and make our alternate green, which is quite dark. You can see comparatively. And kind of painting in between some of these spaces to show how solidly filled the teapot is with flowers. Looking pretty good there. A little bit of distant, distant, distant. And there really isn't a bright yellow per se, so I might even take a little of the ultramarine and kind of knock back this yellow some. So any yellow that would be kind of registering there would be very distant and not really evident or focal to us. Even add some brown there. See how we just really desaturated that and knocked it back? I like that quite a lot. All right, when we
Yeah.
come back, I'm going to show you the next step. So let's come in and add a little more kind of layer and detailing to everything. We have our handle up here. We have our background. We've got our teapot to put in. One thing that we can do is I can come in with my bright brush. You see this here, this number 16. And this is a scruffy one. This is done with hog. And I can start to think about how the background is going to register around my flowers. Right? If I want them to really pop, maybe I want to kind of come in and dry brush and darken this background a little bit. Like you do. So this is a bit dry, and it adds some interest. It makes the background a little more multidimensional. My flowers are going to be quite light, so I will want to have kind of some contrast there. The contrast gives you your greatest focus in a painting. So whatever your greatest sense of contrast is can really actually pull a lot of focus. And then if you add color to that, it can be a big, big deal. So sometimes I think about that when I'm putting in kind of a still life background. And come in with a little more white. Notice I'm not really doing anything brush directionally. I'm just trying to make an out of focus little background. As much as I'm making things out of focus in the teapot, I want things to be out of focus. What do you think, John?
I like little teapots.
You like little teapots?
I think they're pretty cool.
Yeah, I do too. All right. So we've got this here. Now, I know that I'm going to at least for sure have some deep shadow, underneath the teapot. So I might as well get into that now. That's going to be the ultramarine blue and the Mars black. And I can even kind of round that up into the bottom of my teapot. Because remember I said that they would be a value where they almost look like they were in that same range. Come in blue and sort of edge this so that it's like a multi-dimensional shadow as we would want to have. Now, I'm not done here. I will have like reflection from the teapot itself, maybe kind of casting on the floor. So some of the copper colors and everything that we're going to have, we'll definitely do. And we'll definitely have a bit of a shadow under the little flower that we're going to put here. So those are things we can think about even now, kind of talking about in our still life. That's pretty nice. I like that very much. I'm going to rinse out my brush thoroughly, and let's come back and do another step. So let's get in a little more. I might come in just initially with my number 4 round for the control the brush will give me, and I'm going to get a little of my black and brown. I don't actually want any gray in it, so I'm going to come up here where there isn't white. I want black and brown to get a deep chocolate color. This will be that first sort of range up here that I'm going to be highlighting against maybe, or my wood handle. And it can be interesting to kind of make things as symmetrical as you can, because a turned handle would be. As you can. And then remember, there's just a lot of grace because there's so many little daisies coming. So don't be too hard on yourself in this area. You'll be okay either way. I'm going to add a little more dark. Maybe a little more dark to the underside of this, a little more black. Here we go. It's subtle, but you want to have it there. While that's having a bit of a dry, I can come in and get a little of my black and brown here. And underneath the spout of the teapot, kind of bring in a little bit of a stroke there. This is the beginning of that. And there's maybe a bit of this, a little bit of a darker value at the top. Coming down the front. Certainly under the lip. And then I'm going to kind of do a curve here, and that kind of helps connect the spout to the pot. And then we definitely saw how the teapot had a dark area. I'm going to curve a little bit of a dark reflection here. Initially right here. And then I'm going to bring a little bit down there. Okay? Now, because shadows are kind of a big deal, and I want you guys to see this, let's call that a step. Let's dry this and come back, and we're going to get in the rest of our wooden teapot fairly quickly. So we're going to put some more values on here. I'm going to grab my hog brush. That was the 16. And I'm going to start to put in some of my lighter copper color, which is going to be my cad red and a little bit of my burnt sienna and some yellow. I always push a spidge a bit of white into it to kind of get it to that space. And that's the range we're going to be working, right, to create the copper on the kettle. Now, at first, we're just going to block in what we've got. All right, because we've just got to block in this color. And then it's going to be in highlights and values and reflections that it becomes metal. It'll happen quicker than you can even imagine. But it's important to get some basic paint down to get there. You see, we haven't really lost our shadows. We've just blocked in what we're going to need for the rest of it. I'm also going to kind of dry brush. This brush is a little bit wet at the top of this. Start to think about dry brushing some of this wood texture down. And it's interesting that the handle and the teapot are of similar color and yet have such different feels to them. The wood feels different than the copper along the top of that. And I may end up coming back with my round brush to sort of control a little bit of that edge there.
Yeah, a little more.
Mm-hmm. And come in here and grab a little bit of yellow, and I'm going to get into this. Make a little triangle shape here. So we're just going to put different values, little highlights, little lowlights. There we go. Just start getting reflections in. And I'm just using my big brush right now to work out big ideas. And then as I go, I add a lot more white there. Adding a little bit of that downward reflection.
Everything seems so dark right now because it's the background.
Because the background. Shadows. When you put all these bright daisies, though, this whole thing will start to brighten up. And that's sort of an interesting space. A little dry brushing down here. A little bit of line there. It's interesting just to keep playing with that. A little bit there. Now, I feel like this was just too fluffy and heavy of a brush to do all the little details. So I do want to kind of come back here and get my background color and fix the top of this. And so I'm tipping it so I can see it well. Just so I have some idea of what's going on there. Can always like blend out. Because of the way this is sort of a rough abstract background.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can even come into this. I'm going to get a lot more yellow. And then I'm going to add a little bit there. And then for sure to the inside highlight of this part of the teapot. It's sort of interesting because there is a shadow against a highlight. You know, so it'll go highlight, and then the shadow, and then the highlight. But we've also got to kind of work even here. Showing, and I might come over and get some more orange going. There we go. Look at how that handle just comes to life.
It really does.
Doesn't take too much. Highlights later, we'll bring it more in. Let's call this a step because that was a lot, believe it or not, to think about and do.
Yeah.
That can be really challenging. So we come back and we'll keep going along, making our teapot be reflective and our wood be wood. So I'm gonna continue on in the coppering of my pot. I'm gonna use my round hog and my round synthetic to kind of get the effects that I'm looking for. I'm gonna begin with a little bit of red and cad yellow. And I'm gonna make sure this isn't wet. That's the big problem, like with the brushes like that, is that sometimes, when they're wet, they put down too much water into the paint. I'm adding a lot of white to this. I'm brushing a little bit of reflection. Just barely touching. Right here where the teapot seam is. It's such an interesting place. A little weird little angle reflection there. More cad red in that little spot. Little dry brush there. Just kind of knocking that shadow. I can always come back and or tighten that up, can't I? And if I bring a highlight right up to this edge, it will help set that seam.
Oh.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest here. I feel like one could just teapot all day. Like, it's fun, like
You could.
legit fun.
You could just keep depotting.
It's fun to paint metal. Add a little bit of a bright red and yellow, curving it. See how there's a little curve?
Yeah.
A little bit of a curve. And I do want my curves. I do want those to be happening. They do help. I'm going to get my black into it. And then even here, I've got my teapot color in it. I need it to be dark. Little solid reflections happening. Oh man, I love doing this. It's just super fun, guys. Because it comes in, doesn't it, real fast?
It does.
Get a little bit of our dark color here. And then a little top down. This is, weirdly enough, guys, what this is the reflections or shadows of some of the flowers coming down.
Wow.
And you need to have them. A little bit more brown there. That's nice. The lip of this needs to have a tighter line, you know. So I'm going to come in and get back into my too wet on that. Sometimes you got to watch that. Too wet.
Too wet. Oh, just adding the shape with
With a
the
little bit of the brush
direction.
and yeah, because there's definitely a bit more of that, going on there. I can always get right into the black. A little bit right there. That's sort of fun, is it not?
That is.
And the top of this should definitely have a bit of. You see, I'm leaving little openings where there's the reflections and the shadows.
Mm.
That's what gets you there. Along the little lip, I can come in with another bunch of my little kind of orange and red highlights. Get a little yellow over here into some of that. Some light kind of peach.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just kind of tapping this sort of like irregular patina. Might even be easier to do with a hog. Little line straight up, straight down. And we want to soften it. Playing with those values.
Yeah.
Let's get a really, really light color. Come up here to the wood for a second. A little bit on the handle. Just the beginning. All right. Now it needs to be dry for the next layer. So let's dry it and come back and continue on. So we are braving on our metal,
Braving.
braving it on. I've got my hog brush and I'm going to get some of my, I don't know, black and brown into it and some red, but thoroughly mixed, right? And I'm going to use the natural kind of floofiness
Mm.
to pit or patina the kettle. A used metal copper kettle like this will have dents and impacts and patinas.
Yep.
And sometimes that's a very important aspect of painting anything that you're trying to say is a particular type of material. Is recognizing that it needs those imperfections in the metal. That's a requirement that's necessary to the teapot looking correct. I'm going to really dry my brush out now.
Okay.
I'm going to get a little white. And create kind of a hot spot inside that area I made earlier. And another hot spot. Now I'm going to wipe out, and I do want it to be a highlight, but I need it to be a dry brushed one.
Mm.
So it's reflection. It's just not as sharp as those focal reflections. A little red and orange. Coming up at an angle there. Adding a little white. Down the sleeve of the kettle. Now I'm going to get some white on my brush. It's very dry. And I'll let it blend into there. That allows it to soften. So it's like maybe hard here. And then softens. And I will come in with like a very kind of dry brush in a minute to like pop some sharp reflections there. I'm going to use my number 4 round. I'm going to get a little white loaded on my brush. Definitely on the opening. Isn't it amazing how just that does that, John?
Yeah.
And then also, even for my handle here, I'm going to it's more tapped out, and that's because the wood surface wouldn't be as um, smooth, right?
Right.
But we've got other little bits that we're gonna add up here. A little highlight there, highlight there. See how that kind of
Mm-hmm.
infers a little shape as well. Oh my. Last thing, I'm going to come in with like a little highlighted area. A little bit at the joint. Little highlights up here in the pits. And a little bit at that lip. All right. Look at what we did. Is
That is pretty cool.
teapot.
Yeah.
Clearly copper teapot. And we use no copper paint.
Mm.
As per the usual. So let's dry this and let's come back and paint some flowers, which is the whole reason we're meeting every day. So we have the fun of getting to put in some flowers, and I'm going to start out with my round brush, and if it works best, then I'll keep with it, and if I don't like it, I will change it.
All right.
You will know at the beginning of the step everything I use, so you're okay there. And I'm going to begin to think about where my flowers might grow. And I'm going to take a little of my black and yellow together. And told you the ultramarine blue and the cad yellow were going to be our brightest green. And I'm going to say put a little curved stem there. Just a little bit here and there, right? And I can even get a little white into that and lighten that green. Let's pull a lot more yellow over here. Just a lot more. And we'll say that perhaps up here there is a daisy. And then one right here.
Those are going to look really.
Put a forward facing fellow right there. Partial. This one's interesting because it's going to be mostly the green. Another partial. A little bit more green. And I might even go into my darker green here. All right, so that's that layer of them going in. We kind of know where those are.
Layers.
We got to get those layers in. We're going to take a little of our blue and our white. Well, it looks like a little of my green's in there, but I don't care. What I want is not bright white yet. I want a cool white. So I'm going to say that right here, are a few little petals. Some of them are coming to me, so they're a little more in perspective, perhaps, than their little friends. And then bring some little petals around this fella. Now, all their buttons will get put back, but just this gives me a place to start, right? This one is more focused. I'm going to bring these around as I go. There we go. Curve, curve, curve. No, and maybe just a little bit there. And then get a little more blue into it. Come over here and grab our friend. I'm curving these strokes are like little comma strokes. We're just going. Those were short. See how short they were? Just a little bit of that yellow was peeking forward.
Oh.
Okay. A lot happened there in that moment of those little flowers, huh? So let's call it a step because that's a big one to get used to. You're
It
not
is.
going to have perfect centers at this moment, right? You haven't set the face of your flower yet. You've just started to set where your flowers might be at. So let's dry it and come back and I'll show you how we kind of resolve that grouping of flowers and then we will build them in layers as we go through. And this thing will just be full of happy yellow daisies, which almost was what I did my bedroom in once was
I
mid-century modern
yeah.
daisy kitsch. I was all like gonna be into it. This painting would have gone in there really well. All right, let's try it. I'll meet you for the next. So let's put some brighter aspects on our flowers. I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow and maybe some of my cad red over here. You guys see that on the palette? And I'm going to mix some brighter yellow. And I'm going to start to brighten up the fronts of those daisies. This one just a little bit. That wasn't too bad, was it?
Yeah.
You can always actually get right back into your green and kind of give them those two little values. And when we come put the last little bit of like bright kind of yellow white, it's going to be amazing. I'm going to take a little bit of my white over here and a little bit of my yellow. Right, so this definitely white, brighter than the other white that I even made, but I've added yellow to it. And I'm going to highlight some petals. Not every petal and not every part of the petal. Just some of them little suckers. And that's kind of helping me get the turn of my flowers here. Tops of these. Maybe just a little bit there. Not the whole bud, just a little bit. That's going to be a big thing. Not the whole bud. Right? Like these here. Just going
Hmm.
to do the edges of them so that they stay kind of facing forward. Here's what. It's easy to get frustrated in your flowers. That's an easy thing to do. Just get super frustrated in your flowers. Because there's this perfect flower in your head, and you've held it in your head and your heart since you were a child. Some flower, some moment, some gorgeous little bit of nature that just stuck right here. And you want to honor that perfect idea of a flower. Painting isn't about perfection. It is about expressing where we're at, where we want to be. It's a very emotional space. And in it, that perfect flower you felt as a kid can inform what you're doing, but it shouldn't become shackles to
Right.
you enjoying the experience, which, come on, already. Who would enjoy this? Right? If you can let go and you can be okay. Remember, it's about learning the skills. You're learning daisies. We're going to paint a lot of daisies, right? So we're painting daisies. There's been all kinds of flowers. That's how you get better at them. You paint them.
Yeah.
Okay, let's call this a step. Dry this, and we'll come back and we'll do some more flowers. So now we're cooking with fire, ready to go on. We got to put some more distant flowers in there. Let's start with let's add a little more to our dark yellow, right? This is our not bright yellow. Still yellow, but it's just not as bright as it could be. And I'm going to come up here and say something a little bit about this. But then, interestingly enough, also underneath. Right, so this is kind of the understem of the flower, and then there'll be a little yellow peeking out. And all we can do is kind of tip a little white around there to create those little forward-facing flowers. So even with our faraway flowers we put there, we've still got a bunch of in here flowers that are having little moments, right?
Mm.
And then I love these. There's a ton of. Let's put in a bunch of these little. I'm gonna bloom, but I haven't bloomed yet. Buds. Say that with me. I'm gonna bloom, but I haven't bloomed yet. And I'll do it when I want to, because you can't make me. Can't make anyone rush their flower, right?
It's true.
Okay, I definitely want to put another one here. Oh, I'm going to lose a little bit of my highlights, but we knew we were going to lose some, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're like, don't, the handle's there, but it's not. Little bits of leaves or something. We're thinking about stuff, right?
Yeah.
And this one's probably going to be all facing forward, so I'm going to come in and give it a nice back. And then let's put a little ball here, a little darker in the green. So see those little reflections and stuff that we put in there. I mean, shadows, that's what this was about. Got to get a little more green going there. Better coverage. And then let's say there's another one right here. Another one right here. We've still got some tucked in little bits we've got to do, but that's a lot.
Yeah.
Look how many of those we put in. Right? And while we're here, we can come down here. While we're here. While you're here.
While we're here.
Let's come down here and start thinking about a little forward-facing series of friends. Look at that, little bits. A little blue into that. Darker green with more blue, right?
Mm.
There we go. That's the start of something. We'll get to it in a minute, but we know where it is now.
Yeah.
On the ground. Doing its little on the ground thing. Let's put in some flowers. So back to our cool petal. Right? We know we want a shadowed petal. I'm going to mist my paint so I still have it going. Still just using this round, number 4 round will get you real far in life.
Hmm.
And now we've got to figure out what we want to do. On here, I definitely want to make little striations out of what could be closed little buds. All right, those are closed little buds. This one, oh, I love this one. That one's kind of just facing down, isn't it? Curving some of these forward.
Yeah.
That's just wild. So that layer and layer, see, that layers pretty heavily. And then I know that there's going to be a flower there covering, and I don't want to put too much into it. I think I do want it to be a little in front of this one, so I'll come back and put these petals in first. And sometimes you'll do that. You'll be like, oh, I don't like where you're located.
Hmm.
Coming around, pulling in. Tucked in. This one's going to be kind of barely there. Now, this one I really love up here because we've got little petals that are sort of facing us. And then the ones that we sort of see behind this, that's sort of interesting to me. So it'll be there, but it's like in a weird angle. A lot of times when we have flowers at weird angles, we just give up on them instead of leaning into them. And
Hmm.
you are awesome. Let's do you a bunch. Filling in, isn't it? Now we're going to grab a little bit of our orange yellow. Touch a couple faces. I like to kind of come in on the little round ones sometimes and give them those little kisses of that.
Yeah.
That orange. And go ahead and touch this face a little bit. I got to put some white on it. I'll get it in a minute. I can always come back to ones I've already done. Just make sure that they've got that punch. Okay, just every direction. They're just a mess, aren't they? They're just
Really cool.
wonderful. I'm going to switch water because I want to make sure that my color stays pretty clean, and this does get it dirty pretty fast. I'm going to come in and do some more of my bright yellow white. Where it goes. There's a little petal there or two in light. On the tips of some of these, a little bit of highlight. Just a few there and there. Just a little bit of highlight. Maybe just on those upper edges. On top. Just a bit. And didn't that just turn that flower's head?
Oh, yeah.
That what doesn't have highlight will feel like it's more in shadow. You want to highlight everything. I'm going to come in and touch up some of that. I'm going to bring some green back in. I feel like it just didn't show as green. And I'll go ahead and get my cool blue. Curving these in comma strokes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Looks good, good, good. Let's give this a dry and we'll come back and add some fun flowers. So we need kind of a little focus right here, and so we're going to grab our green yellow that we liked and let's have somebody facing right here.
Little central one.
Just a little central one, a little bigger, a little more focal. I can put reflections back on my tea kettle if I lose them in this process. That's okay. And then just like little bits of hidden, implied things. All right. Come in and I want to take a little of my yellow reflection, kind of put it in a couple spots on that little teapot
Yeah.
because I feel like that'll help it look, you see, shiny, 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 shiny. You need to have shiny, shiny, shiny. I'm going to get some of my shaded petal, ultramarine blue, titanium white. Yeah, I'm going to have to put that reflection back elsewhere. And that's okay. Because I want this big focused flower. So if I lose that, what do? I just come and I go, the reflection could be there.
Could be.
It's just, I'm going to make a little dot of serious little reflections on the thing. So you don't ever have to worry about that. Now, while all this is having kind of a moment, let's go back into some of our tea kettle color, right? And kind of work it into some of the brown black. And then I'm going to just dry brush and dust a little of that into the ground.
Huh.
And that's because this is a reflective item, right?
That's true.
It would show a bit. So even though it has shadow, it would definitely reflect itself onto the ground. I'm going to, while this is all having a dry, get a little of my black and yellow, like you do.
Mm-hmm.
Make a deep green.
Get those little shadows on there.
Yeah, because that little plant needs a better little bit of shadow, and I can even come and get a little blue. I'll put a little shadow kind of cast under it when it's all in. Make sure this is like looking sort of good. Now, let's get our bright yellow. That's kind of wonderful, isn't it? We still see a little bit of our green under there, but we're all right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get a lot more white onto here. It's got a little of the light color into it. I'm going to come over here. Let's wet our brush so that the paint flows off nicely. We've been painting for a second. Isn't that nice? Just a little bit of highlight there. This is gonna need to dry. This is gonna need to dry.
All right.
So let's dry it and we'll come back and we'll finish this flower and then all the last little finishing touches that make this painting go zhuzh. So one thing here I want to make sure is that this teapot feels like it's full and it's going off the space and it's a little bit stopped right there. So I'm
Does
going
it
to get a very dark color.
doesn't quite have that short and stout feel yet?
Well, you just want to make sure that it feels like the flowers and everything are going off the edge.
Like there's a continuing story off the side?
And if you see that, that's something you want to look for in your painting. I'm going to get into my bright white color. And pull a petal, pull a petal, pull a petal. Suddenly that becomes much more focused, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's bright, it's cheerful. It is the brightest flower in the bucket, so to speak. I'm going to get a little white and yellow. And add a little bit of a white and yellow highlight. A little bit here and there. Big pop, isn't it? And that also helps show the direction of maybe some of these.
Really does.
Lets you feel them a bit. And that's all done. And I mean, this is looking pretty cool. I'm going to
Yeah.
take just I think my ultramarine blue and a little bit of my black. And just make sure that there's just a little shadow under what I just, this little flower.
Oh, yeah.
He needs a shadow, doesn't he? He exists. Okay. We're through another one. Let's sign it, and then I'll tell you what we're going to do next. Need to find my signature brush.
Yeah.
All right, let's sign it, and we'll come back.
Sign. Because I saw the sign.
And it opened up my eyes.
And I'm happy now.
I don't want to live without you. I'm changing lyrics. I'm sorry, because this is not how I feel. All right, it's got a little signature on it. That was a lot of daisies, John.
It was.
So all the daisies, we painted them all. We know all about them. We've learned so much about daisies and copper and metal, and we're just continuing on. It's not the last metal ever that I will ever paint on my channel, I'm sure. I certainly have a lot of other heavy metal, but heavy metal with daisies. I do like painting it as a subject, and I do like painting flowers. I hope you've been enjoying not just this one class, but the entire program at Painting Flowers. I hope you're holding on okay. Remember, you can share your paintings in group and get encouragement, people who've been where you are. There's definitely, like, as you go along, you paint. I feel like now I have a lot of resiliency because my job requires that I paint every day.
Yeah.
But if it's really new to you, it takes a lot at first. And it's okay for you to feel that. Like, even though it's fun to color and paint and do things and flowers, what's more fun than flowers? Your brain's working a little bit, as is your heart and spirit. So it's all right to be feeling it. I hope that you will come back and join me again. I hope you'll come for more of this program because I think it's going to be life changing.
Yeah.
Acrylic April, Bloom 2022. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other.